Bon dia a tothom. Sou aquí perquè sou alumnes d'especialitat. Esteu convidats a les conferències de la doctora Eleni Kanetaki. Us la presento tot seguit. És enginyera arquitecta per la Universitat Tècnica Nacional d'Atenes i especialitzada en restauració de monuments per la Universitat La Sapienza de Roma. És doctora per la Universitat Nacional Tècnica d'Atenes al Departament de Disseny Arquitectònic i després, en la seva carrera professional, ha participat en multitud de projectes arquitectònics, sobretot, de documentació de monuments i de restauració de conjunts històrics a nivell arquitectònic. També és col·laboradora científica en programes de recerca i organitzacions internacionals sobre patrimoni cultural. La seva experiència docent ha passat per la Universitat Nacional Tècnica d'Atenes, la Universitat de Patra, la Universitat Demòcrit de Tràcia, entre altres. I actualment és professora del Departament de Conservació d'Antiguitats i Obres d'Art de la University of West Attica. A més, és membre de l'ICOMOS, de la secció helènica, des de 1999 i membre del Comitè de Treball del Patrimoni Cultural a la Cambra Tècnica de Grècia. D'acord? Us deixo amb ella.
So, buenos dias, good morning to everybody. I would like to thank Ms. Gemma Orge at the Erasmus office of the Scuola for providing all the necessary information and all the needed process for me to be here today. Also, I would like to thank Silvia Marin, your professor, for helping me to finalize again the bureaucratical procedures which had to take place between my university and your university. So, I'm happy to be here, happy to be in Barcelona again, in Spain. And this first lecture, which is going to take place today, has a topic that we selected together with Silvia while we were trying to finalize the lecture's topics. So for me, as an architect engineer, as she said, I lecture in courses of architectural restoration in Athens, and the topic which I will present today is more or less related to one of the disciplines I teach in Athens at the University of West Attica, and it kind of refers to the history of technology course I am having for the past 3 years. But apart from the lectures, apart from information which I use for my courses, this lecture is also, let's say, a summary of certain research issues I'm working on personally. So as an architect engineer, I'm part of a group working on the water management in Greece, and especially in archaeological sites. Therefore, that's the reason why I'm using one of the pictures here in the first slide. So this is the relation between Spain and Greece. This is where we are. This is where I came from 2 days ago, from Athens to Barcelona. And well, the main topics that I will present today, and I do hope that are going to be of your interest, are certain archaeological areas and the technical works which have been done and at the same time restored by the Ministry of Culture in Greece. And I will try to start a short trip to Greece by taking you to Knossos, to other places like Corinth in the Peloponnese, Samos in the Aegean Sea, and then we'll go back to Athens. So, for those of you who have been to Greece, I imagine that when somebody asks you about archaeological sites and about, let's say, the most interesting and characteristic place, you would say the Acropolis. Yes, for sure. But apart from the Acropolis, there are other places which are really worthwhile. And for me, as an architect engineer, apart from the history and the monument and the construction techniques and etc., the material, it's really interesting to see some more high-quality technical works. So let's go to Knossos. Knossos is, let's say, the most important site of Crete. And it's well known because in the Bronze Age, Greece was supposed to be, Greece had 3 important civilizations, and I think that you know all about them. The Minoan, which takes the name from King Minoas, the Cycladic in the area of the Cyclades, plus the Mycenaean, which is in the area of Peloponnese and takes a name from the last period. So we are in the Bronze Age, like 2,000 years before. And this is the picture of an aerial view of Knossos. Knossos was actually the main palace of the king, and it's not just one palace. Many palaces took over the place of the same palace because due to fire, due to other earthquakes, other terrible destructions at that period of time, as well as the eruption of Santorini volcano. So the palace was kind of destroyed many times. Yet, if somebody goes there, you will have to notice, apart from the main layout of the buildings, which is located, they are located around a very big courtyard, north to south, very close to the sea, important for merchants and for shipping exchange. Yet, Knossos is very famous, especially for us architects, because it shows a number of technical works of high quality. And high quality also, when you don't know about it, you may not notice it. But if you happen to go there, just look after these points. So I will be talking about the use of water. Water is something very important, whether we use it to drink, whether we use it to wash, whether we use it to keep our lives in a good shape, let's say also for hygiene reasons. Yet Knossos is the first area, let's say in Greece, where we have sanitation systems and irrigation systems, which means water was brought to the palace. The palace was a big center where the king was living. The palace was a place where they kept wine, they kept oil, which was shipped to the area of the Mediterranean and shipped also to Egypt, we know that, shipped also to other places in Greece. So the palace, which was an amazing labyrinth of different spaces, was constructed in 3 different levels. And there were also the amazing vertical staircases, which were constructed for that time, an amazing work of architecture. But for Knossos, the pictures that you might get, this is the picture that you might get for Knossos, and just allow a parenthesis. What you see is the result of a restoration project which was done in the 1906 by Arthur Evans, the famous archaeologist who came to Crete and who, out of his own mind, with no documentation, no relevant authorization, he reconstructed Knossos the way he thought it would be. So it was not documented. He used cement, which is a non-reversible material. So according to all the theories of our time, this would have been cancelled and would have been considered. It's considered as non-scientific, but a century ago, things like that did happen. What you see from Knossos is this picture, for example. And what I meant by the use of water, so water was brought to the palace, and you can still find this kind of stone-constructed channels which would bring the water from, let's say, aqueducts or water fountains which were placed nearby. And what you can see are photographs which are from different websites, and they're also from this group of people I'm collaborating, working on the use of water throughout the centuries in Greece. And it's something that already you have presented in conferences, we've written articles about it, so it's more or less well known. But I think that for somebody who's not Greek, these are really interesting photographs, and just a hint whenever you come to Greece and go to Knossos, just an idea to look after these points. So water management was supposed to be of high quality, an advanced use of water. And also archaeologists plus architects have tried to reconstruct and represent how also the hydraulics in the palace were at that time. We also have some indications that the queen must have had a bathroom. It's very important for that time to be thinking about a bathroom in the way that we would somehow imagine it today. So you still see some photographs. They are from the drainage channels which have been discovered. So underneath the pavement of the main court, as well as leading to the main, the low level, the underground level areas where they would keep the main products. This is also a picture on that you can see that the water is being channeled. So there's no, it's a big evidence. There's no other question about how the water must have been used. We also have, as I said, certain documentation about the rooms where the queen must have lived. So it was like the so-called queen's megaron. Megaron is a Greek word. It defines the area where a very important person is living. So it's a megaron either in Crete, either in Peloponnese in the Mycenaean area. So we call it like the megaron of the queen, and there are certain rooms which, again, according to archaeologists, have been defined having a certain use. Yet, what is important to see, this is a picture again of the main layout area of Knossos, and you can see with the color, the purple color of the area where the queen was supposed to be residing. The other important issue about Knossos is apart from the irrigation and the drainage system, the fact that we have found evidence of the queen's toilet. It may seem a bit funny, but you know, the idea of having a toilet at that time did exist. We come to the point of talking about toilets when we are referring to the Roman period, where we say that the Romans were sitting all together in certain rooms, which were close, also part of the therme, but the toilets were something like a group work. In this case, in Knossos, Bronze Age, I'm repeating, so it's really very, very premature. The queen must have had her own bathroom, and as well as her own toilet. So this is a representation which was done like a century ago by the famous Holland Pierre de Young, who has designed and tried to reconstruct, as well as Mycenae in Peloponnese, as well as Knossos. And his work, his amazing work, shows us how the Minoans must have lived around that time. So also the idea of showing and documenting the as you can see with the blue color, the channels where the water must have been moving underneath the pavement in the quarters of the queen. So I think that is really very, very important. Also some pictures that you can see more or less how the palace construction was. So you may not be architects, but I think that the picture shows all the needed information. And think about a construction which was made by stone and wood. So Evans, what he did is he represented wood with concrete, and stone he filled up the remaining ground floor, the foundations with stone again. But what you actually see is the representation. Yet it's important to see the water management and the whole sanitation system which exists until now. I'm using Knossos as an example because in Crete we also have other palaces like Malia, Festos, or Komos, or Zakros, but anyway, they are not restored, and the point of conservation is not that good as in Knossos. Knossos is a highlight. So in Knossos you see also these very important staircases where light comes from the second level to the underground level. This was also regarded as an important technical work at that time, because light was provided by lamps at that period. And you also see some other pictures where they also have found this basin by clay, and it's regarded that it has been referred to as the area of the bathroom of the queen. This is what I meant by saying that they have discovered let's say in quotation, the toilet of the queen, because you can see that it has been designed, it has been reconstructed, and it also shows that it had a wooden cover on the upper level where the queen would sit, and then there is an inclination, so the water channel that would come would irrigate the whole area, which would be continuously clean. So trying to figure out how this was working was something very important, but knowing how the water management was, this was evident and this was possible. It may seem something very easy for us today, but for that, again, I'm referring to the time that this was constructed. So I have a few points which are written, but I think we can pass to the next example, and then if you want, we can refer to it, and I can give you the presentation for any kind of reference that may be needed. Some other pictures, again from the same area, from the Palace of Knossos in Crete. You can see also the way that they have reconstructed this bathtub. And let's move to another area. let's move centuries later. Let's go to Peloponnese and to the city of Corinth. So I'm transferring you to the 6th century before Christ, where exactly Corinth and the area where we can find the remainings of the Diolkos are quite interesting. So if I take the word Diolkos, it's kind of referring to tramite, by betweens of something which is kind of a lifting material, something like trying to hoist and lift. So Diolkos, practically, was the first channel, the first idea of constructing a road, a paved road, where ships could be brought up to a vehicle and they would cross the one gulf to the other. So this is, as I showed you, Peloponnese. And imagine that at that time, the ships with products, whatever, had to make the whole, all around the Peloponnese area to go from, let's say, the Saronic Gulf, close to Athens, and move to the area, let's say, going to Patras. Now, if you come to Greece, you will find that there is a channel which was constructed in the 19th century, and the Isthmus of Corinth. But at that time, they had this amazing idea to construct, because there was no passing from one gulf to the other. So what they did is they constructed a cabled road, a pathway, where the ships were brought up to a carrier, up to a vehicle, and the vehicle was kind of brought by animals from one side to the other. It may seem a bit of no use, but when you think at that time, you had to cross, the ship had to cross all the coastline of Peloponnese. Now, like that, it was just a matter of 1 kilometer approximately from one gulf to the other. This is the modern situation with the channel that has been opened a century ago. At that time, this did not exist. So with the red circle, I have highlighted the place where this cobbled pathway was found. And this is the modern Canal of Corinth, constructed in the 1880s until the 1893. So ships now don't have to make the whole trip along the coast. They just cross the canal. And these are some pictures from the opening of the canal, which took a lot of years, and certain French companies that have worked at this site. Also some pictures here which show the time that they were trying to open up this. It was a huge technical work and very important. Think about the canal in Egypt, as well as, okay, this in a few words, it's also important for Greeks, because as I said, it just takes you like less than an hour to cross this channel. But it was a major and an important technical work, which even from the Antiquity, it's mentioned in the ancient scripts, it's mentioned in the ancient texts, but they could not think about how to practically do it. So this is the area of Diolkos. That's how we call it in Greek, Diolkos. And this is a word it takes also in English. And I will show you some pictures of it. It's under restoration in the sense that the Ministry of Culture has undertaken a number of projects during the past 2 years. And this is a place that in the future is going to be also exhibited in a much better way. When you go to Corinth and you try to find the Diolkos, practically, this is what you will see. But if for someone who comes close, you can realize that it has a width of approximately 3 to 3.4 meters, and it's like it shows that the cabled pathway has signs of the wheels of the vehicle which was supposed to have been used. Now, I know it may not be that easy for you to reconstruct it in your mind, but I could show you 2 videos which have been presented in Greece. The texts are in English. So they were produced by a professor at NTUA in the National Technical University of Athens, by Professor Tassios. He's the head of an association dealing with antiquity and high works of technology in ancient Greece. And he's actually the one who's narrating the story. It's like a 3 minutes video on the YouTube. I think you will like it a lot. But it's important to understand and think in your minds that this was a way of transportation during the antique times. And I'm saying it's like 6th century before Christ. So it's very important to say that since the ships could not cross and make the whole coastline, this was very easy. The idea was just crossing there was no channel, but taking the ship on the vehicle and then pushing it through this pathway. So these are some pictures. As you can see, it's very close to the sea now. It's very close to the channel. And this has led to a high risk of decay because it hasn't been protected by the weather conditions. And also due to the tide, due to the water tides, this has also become a very, has caused a lot of risks and a lot of decay to the paved way. This is the paved way that you can see, and also some pictures during the past 15 years which show that a part of it has fallen into the water. And this has caused also a big discussion in Greece between the Ministry of Culture plus the municipality in the area. But since 2021, it's under restoration. This is a link of a YouTube video. I will show it to you in a while if you want, maybe at the end of the lecture. There are actually two videos which are being used for this presentation. This is a picture of a snapshot of the video, as you can see from the Iolkos, and it also has a description again in English, which I think that you will like. These are some pictures again which show what has been remaining. You can see the remains of the tracks. And then let's go to the third technical work which I would like to show you. It's situated in the Aegean Sea at the island of Samos. It's more or less at the same chronological period, 6th century before Christ, and it's called the Tunnel of Eupalinos. Now, this is another tunnel. Again, the main project, the main reason why this project was constructed was to irrigate the city of Samos. So as you can see, the idea of water is something very important. I have put the circle again to the island of Samos, and I will show you a few plants plus a few photographs. The idea was that the city of Samos had to be irrigated, okay, but the fountain, the water, was situated like a few kilometers away. So what they actually did is that they created a channel by digging into the mountain. You would say this is logical. It was not logical because practically, in a period of 10 years, two groups of people started to dig inside the mountain. This whole idea was designed by Eupalinos. He was a famous architect of the time. He had also worked close to Corinth. Again, the idea of water management was in his mind. But what they actually did, imagine that a group of workers started to dig from one side, a group of other workers started to dig from the other side. So with the technical knowledge of that time and the topographic idea of that time, imagine that they had to start digging, and they had to find themselves, they had to meet at a certain point. This point, with the modern technology, with topography and all the objects you have and the machines and all the high programs, the high quality programs you have, this would seem so easy. Yet at that time, with the knowledge that they had and with the simple methods of topographic calculation, that meant that it was a very difficult project. Yet they kind of met, and there was a deviation of something a few centimeters. So they actually, the point of digging from one and the point of digging to the other side, they had to deviate a few centimeters, and they actually met. That meant that they constructed a channel. And inside the channel, they managed to have also the ceramic tile, the ceramic tube through which the water was now coming to irrigate the city. There has been a study by the German Archaeological Institute in Athens. There have been books published by them. And at the same time, Professor Theodosios Stasios from the NTUA, he's a civil engineer, but he's working on the architectural technology of ancient Greece. And so they have done, again, another video. And I will show to you in a while. Well, these are some pictures. Imagine that you're crossing this tunnel, which is kind of short and not very wide. And inside the tunnel, you can find, this is the entrance on the right side. And the entrance, it is now exhibited. It's actually a monument, and you can visit it. Part of it, not the whole area. This is more or less, it may be in Greek, but doesn't mind, because it shows the red points. It shows the process, the way how the water channel should pass and where they should meet. And the deviation is where I'm showing you with the two lines which are kind of crossing. And this is the image that you get when you go inside. So it's like a tunnel, but there is also, this is where they started, where they were supposed to be meeting, and now it's with green color, the point that was deviated. And practically the water channel was supposed to be carried inside a very deep and thin area. I'll show it to you in a section. This is also more or less an aerial view showing the island and where exactly the line should pass from. So this again are some pictures. You're supposed to be crossing inside the channel, and on the lower part you can see that they have found the ceramic pipe through which the water was supposed to be brought. So this is also a reconstruction about where the two lines, the two paths of people digging must have met. So the deviation they did was to be able to find themselves. And this is also a simple sketch of the section showing exactly at the lower level where the water tube must have been set. So as an idea, I think it's something very majestic, something very genius, that somebody had thought about something like that to be able to bring water to the city. And since it's like a lecture of 45 minutes and I don't want to tire you a lot, I am also referring to a few other technical works in the Antiquity, which are dealing with something which, let's say, I imagine is more familiar to you. And this is the construction of the Greek temples. Now, the construction of the Greek ancient temples was supposed to be made by using stone, by using wood, But later on, after the 7th century, the 6th century, we come to the point of using marble. Marble, of course, was supposed to be quarried. And at the same time, there comes the really good question about how they would elaborate stone, how they would cut the stone from the quarry, and at the same time, how they would bring the big, huge tons of marble to the working areas. So, for example, how did they bring to the Acropolis, to the Parthenon, how did they bring the marble which was quarried in the mountain of Penteli in the area of Athens? So here I have some pictures and some drawings. They are made by Professor Manolis Kores. He has now retired, but he's one of the main people working in the restoration of Acropolis, a very famous professor in Greece. And these are some pictures from a well-known quarry. You can see that the marble is cut in almost horizontal areas, so it was supposed to be taken away and brought to the site of the monuments. And these are some pictures from Athens. These are from the Mount of Penteli. And these are some sites that can still be visited and have been found today. It's actually a sliding process. It's like running through, going down from the mountain of Penteli, where exactly the marble was quarried, and they would bring it to the site of the Parthenon. So that's like more than 20 kilometers away. Imagine that it had to be brought up to carriers, and then by the use of animals, they would have to bring it to the site of the Acropolis, and then to try to bring it up to the hill. So these are some parts. This is actually this road, they call it. It's not actually a paved road, but it shows that from the quarry of Penteli Mountain, it shows how the marble was supposed to be brought up to the center of Athens and to the hill of the Acropolis. So again, there are also some sketches here which show how marble was supposed to be lifted and brought up to the site, whichever it was, either the Acropolis, either for the construction of the Parthenon, or in every other area where a monument, a classical period monument like the temples were supposed to be constructed. So you see a few sketches which were made decades ago by Greeks. There are Greek professors and Greek scientists. It's not that important to mention the names because these are sketches which are found in many books. But you can see different techniques which were applied to be able to lift the huge stones and the huge blocks of marble that was used, especially for the Acropolis. On the right side is also a picture that I had taken years ago. I had the chance to had a visit in the Parthenon with some friends from Italy, and so they had kind of organized a trip, a visit up to the hill, and you can see how actually they are working on the restoration on the architrave of the Parthenon. You also see these U-shaped signs on the marble stones, which were used to be able to put the rope, and so they would lift it. It would be easier for them to lift the huge stones of marble, and then of course to be transferred and set at the place that, according to the architecture of the monument, had to be placed. Coming to the point, to the last pictures of this presentation, I would also like to highlight a few of the, let's say, optical corrections which were organized by the Greeks. I know that when you look at a monument like that, at a Greek temple, we may think that everything is organized in order and that we find that there is harmony when you look at the facade of a building like that. Yet this harmony that we call is the result of a number of visual distortions or visual corrections, as you may say, which the Greeks had very well studied. So if you had the chance to come to the Parthenon or any other monument like the Greek, like the Parthenon, and you had the chance to look at the level where the columns are placed, the first thought was that the surface, the stylobat, was supposed to be horizontal. Yet, when you look at it closely, you will realize that there is a slight curve. It's curvilinear, and this is why the red line, which shows this curvilinear line, this is what it actually is. Why did this happen? It happened because they had realized that the human eye and the way that our eyesight perceives the monument would see it as not regular, not normal. So by doing this slight curve on the level where the columns were placed, this, the first of a number of optical corrections, would give to the monument a more, let's say, harmonious view. This, of course, meant that every piece of stone, every piece of marble had to be in a different way designed and had to be placed after the relevant elaboration. So imagine groups of workers elaborating each piece of stone, which had to have a slight different curvilinear surface. So this was supposed to be a very important optical corrections, and along with the other sketches, there were more others. For example, a facade of a monument like Parthenon has 8 or 6 columns. We are supposed to be dealing with the difference, the distance from one column to the other. Yet the distance from one column to the other is not the same. Again, this is a matter of optical corrections. For example, this is a sketch that shows this. When you look at the red color is indicated to show that the distance from the one at the right side and the one at the left side is not the same with the intermediate columns. This was also a part of the optical corrections. The same thing happens with the columns. A column may be vertically placed, yet there was again an inclination towards the inner part of the temple, and according also to the two sides, left and right. Apart from the inclination, there was also an inclination towards, let's say, the diameter. So if I am describing them quite well in English, I'm just going to show you that there were a number of technical implications here, a number of thoughts which were applied through the technological measures that they could take at that time. So think about how many centuries ago. But all these, the result of all these corrections is what you actually get when you come in front of the Parthenon. This sense of harmony, this sense of everything working together, and pieces of architecture well placed one close to the other. The same thing happens in other in other monuments, not just the Parthenon. The Parthenon, of course, since it was in Athens and they use also good quality marble from the Penteli mountain. Yes, it's really high quality marble, and it shows all these corrections in the best way. I think these are the last images, and you can have some time to discuss and exchange ideas. Is how the geometry of the facade of a temple like the Parthenon or other temples was supposed to be made. So the Greek temples were studied. And the reason why I'm highlighting this today is because you also are working on materials like marble. In our case, in our department, our students also do so. And we organize visits also to the Acropolis, where the specialized workmen there show to our students how they are working, how they are restoring the monuments by using new material or a percentage of new material, or by trying to document the pieces which are spread all over the area of the Acropolis. But I just want to show you these pictures because we have defined practically the golden ratio. So geometry was something which was studied at that time, and it was well applied. And it's really interesting when you think about the period, the time. Of course, the golden ratio is not something that is just used by the Greeks. It's something that later on we saw that also in the history of art, also in other more recent monuments, also in the Renaissance times. It was surely applied. Well, this is the very well-known picture of La Gioconda by Da Vinci, but again, it's really nice to look at this facade of the Parthenon and to try to recognize and document all these geometrical figures, which has been used in architecture, in music, in art, and many other expressions of our time. So it was the last picture. I want to thank you for your attention.